The soft glow of my desk lamp illuminated the dimly lit room as I hunched over my textbooks, drowning in the sea of assignments that seemed to multiply with each passing day. Oblivious to the world outside my study bubble, I barely noticed the vibrations of my phone as notifications buzzed incessantly on the desk beside me. It wasn't until I finally relented and picked up my phone, intending to take a brief respite from the onslaught of academia, that my world came crashing down around me. My heart lurched as I scrolled through the messages, each image and video a damning testament to the betrayal that had unfolded behind my back. Images flashed before my eyes, her laughter, her touch, her lips pressed against another's. Anger surged within me, hot and fierce, mingling with a profound sense of helplessness. How could she do this to me? The question echoed in my mind, reverberating with a painful intensity that threatened to consume me whole. As the reality of her infidelity sank in, I felt as though I were drowning in a sea of betrayal. The person I trusted most had shattered my world with a single act of betrayal, leaving me adrift in a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. "Hey man, you okay?" My roommate's voice broke through the haze of my thoughts, concern etched into the lines of his face as he peered over my shoulder. I shook my head, unable to find the words to articulate the storm raging within me. Instead, I thrust the phone toward him, wordlessly conveying the depth of the betrayal that had been revealed. His eyes widened in shock as he took in the damning evidence displayed on the screen. "Dude, I'm so sorry," he murmured, his voice heavy with sympathy. I could only nod mutely in response, the weight of my pain too heavy to bear alone. In that moment, as I grappled with the shattered remnants of my once promising relationship, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. In the early days of our relationship, hope bloomed like a delicate flower, fragile yet beautiful in its promise of something more. Despite the physical distance that stretched between us like an invisible barrier, we were determined to defy the odds and make our love endure. I remembered the excitement that tingled in the air during our first meeting. A chance encounter that sparked a connection neither of us could deny. From the moment our eyes met across the crowded room, I knew she was someone special, someone worth fighting for. As we navigated the unfamiliar terrain of a long-distance relationship, I poured my heart and soul into every interaction, eager to bridge the gap between us with words of love and devotion. Despite the occasional hiccup in communication and the challenges posed by our separate lives, our bond only seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Yet, beneath the surface of our seemingly idyllic romance, cracks began to form, subtle fissures that threatened to undermine the foundation upon which our love was built. I brushed aside my doubts, attributing them to the natural ebb and flow of any relationship, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. "Hey babe, are you free tonight?" Her voice echoed through the receiver, warm and inviting despite the crackle of static that tainted the line. I smiled, the sound of her voice like a balm to my weary soul. "Of course, always for you," I replied, my heart skipping a beat at the prospect of spending precious moments in her virtual presence. "Great, I can't wait to see you," she said, her enthusiasm contagious even through the distance that separated us. As we exchanged sweet nothings and made plans for our next rendezvous, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of doubt stirring within me. It was fleeting, a mere whisper in the recesses of my mind, but it lingered nonetheless, casting a shadow of the bright future I had envisioned for us. "Everything okay, hun?" Her voice broke through my thoughts, concern etched into the lines of her words. I forced a smile, masking the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. "Yeah, just tired," I replied, hoping to dispel her worries with a reassuring tone. But as I hung up the phone and sank back into the solitude of my thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that our once promising relationship was teetering on the edge of uncertainty, a precipice from which there might be no return. As weeks turned into months, subtle shifts in her behavior began to cast a shadow over the once bright landscape of our relationship. The warmth in her voice grew distant, her laughter tinged with an undercurrent of unease that I couldn't ignore. I brushed aside my growing suspicions, chalking them up to my own insecurities and the natural ebbs and flows of any relationship. Yet, like a persistent whisper in the back of my mind, doubt continued to nag at me, refusing to be silenced. "Hey babe, are you free to talk?" Her voice crackled through the phone, the static a fitting metaphor for the distance that seemed to have grown between us. My heart skipped a beat at the sound of her voice, a mixture of longing and apprehension swirling within me. "Of course, always for you," I replied, my words tinged with a hint of uncertainty that I couldn't quite shake. As we exchanged pleasantries and caught up on the events of our respective days, I couldn't help but notice the hesitance in her tone, the guardedness in her words. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a barrier that had erected itself between us, separating us in ways I couldn't quite comprehend. "Is everything okay?" I ventured, the words tumbling from my lips before I could stop them. There was a pause on the other end of the line, a pregnant silence that hung heavy in the air. "Yeah, everything's fine," she replied, her voice strained with a forced cheerfulness that only served to deepen my unease. But despite my misgivings, I pushed aside my doubts, unwilling to confront the truth that lurked beneath the surface. After all, she was my girlfriend, my partner in love and in life. How could I possibly doubt her intentions? Yet, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the signs became harder to ignore. Her excuses grew flimsier, her absences more frequent, until it seemed as though she was slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. "Hey, can we talk?" I finally mustered the courage to confront her, the words heavy with the weight of my doubts and fears. Her response was immediate, almost too quick, as though she had been expecting this moment all along. "Sure, what's up?" she replied, her voice devoid of emotion, her eyes avoiding mine as though afraid to meet my gaze. And in that moment, as the truth hung heavy in the air between us, I knew that our once promising relationship was teetering on the edge of a precipice from which there might be no return. The weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air as I confronted her, the words tumbling from my lips like stones cast into a silent pool. Her reaction was immediate, a sharp intake of breath, a flicker of fear in her eyes that she quickly masked with a veneer of indifference. "Is it true?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt that threatened to spill over. Her response was swift, almost too quick, as though she had been expecting this moment all along. "What are you talking about?" she replied, her tone edged with a defensiveness that only served to confirm my suspicions. But I was not to be deterred, not this time. With a sense of determination born of desperation, I laid out the evidence before her, each damning piece of proof a testament to the betrayal that had unfolded behind my back. As the truth unraveled, her denials crumbled like sandcastles before the tide, leaving her exposed and vulnerable in the harsh light of reality. Yet, even as the weight of her infidelity bore down upon us, I couldn't shake the feeling of disbelief that clung to me like a second skin. "How could you?" The words slipped from my lips like a whispered prayer, a plea for answers in a world gone suddenly dark. Her silence was deafening, a gaping void that swallowed us whole, leaving nothing but the echoes of our shattered dreams in its wake. And in that moment, as the truth hung heavy in the air between us, I knew that our once promising relationship lay in ruins, a casualty of the lies and deceit that had torn us apart. "I trusted you," I whispered, the words heavy with the weight of betrayal. Her eyes met mine then, a flicker of remorse dancing in their depths, before she turned away, unable to face the wreckage of our shattered love. And as I watched her retreat into the shadows, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. In the aftermath of the betrayal, I found myself adrift in a sea of uncertainty, struggling to make sense of the wreckage that lay scattered around me. The pain of her infidelity cut deep, leaving me raw and vulnerable in its wake. Yet, even as I grappled with the magnitude of the betrayal, a small ember of hope flickered within me, a glimmer of light in the darkness that threatened to consume me whole. With each passing day, I sought solace in the counsel of friends and loved ones, leaning on them for support as I navigated the treacherous waters of heartache and betrayal. Their words of wisdom and encouragement served as a lifeline, anchoring me to the present as I slowly began to heal the wounds that had been inflicted upon my soul. "You deserve better," my best friend said, her voice soft but firm, as she wrapped me in a comforting embrace. "Don't let her betrayal define you." Her words struck a chord deep within me, resonating with a truth that I had long been reluctant to acknowledge. For too long, I had allowed myself to be defined by the actions of others, to be consumed by the pain and anger that threatened to consume me whole. But now, as I stood on the precipice of a new beginning, I knew that I had a choice to make, a choice to reclaim my sense of self and forge a path forward, no matter how uncertain the road may be. With each step I took, I felt the weight of her betrayal lift from my shoulders, replaced by a newfound sense of strength and resilience. It was a slow and arduous journey, fraught with setbacks and obstacles, but with each passing day, I grew stronger, more determined to rise above the pain and forge a future defined by hope and possibility. "You're going to be okay," my sister said, her voice filled with a quiet confidence that I couldn't help but admire. "You're stronger than you realize." And as I looked into her eyes, I knew that she was right. For in the depths of my despair, I had discovered a reservoir of strength that I never knew existed. A strength born of adversity and tempered by the fires of betrayal. And though the road ahead may be long and fraught with uncertainty, I faced it with a sense of courage and determination that could not be quenched. For I knew that no matter what trials may come, I would emerge from the ashes of my pain stronger and more resilient than ever before. Thank you for listening to the story to the end. And if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story.